If you're trying to break into investment banking, it helps to have guidance from people who've been successful. That's where our sponsor, Wall Street Oasis, comes in. Their 12-week academy program can dramatically increase your odds, and it even has a guarantee. That's right. WSO is so confident that if you don't land an offer, they'll refund the entire price of the academy. The catch is, you have to be offered a spot since the program isn't the right fit for everyone. They place students at many top-tier firms, even from non-target schools. So click the link in the show notes or go to wallstreetoasis.com/academy to join the waitlist today. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of the investment banking process. My name is Alex Mason and I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today. I'm doing an audio-only episode today, so if you're on YouTube, sorry, just didn't make it to the studio today. Just a lot going on here in Ithaca. Just took my last finally. Just been a crazy week getting everything wrapped up here at the end of the semester. But I did want to give you this message here today, at least via audio, just like the good old days when it was only just me and a microphone. So it's kind of cool. But hope you're doing well here at the end of the semester. I wanted to talk about a topic that's a little bit of a difficult topic. I don't think I've ever talked about it before, at least dedicated an entire episode to it, but want to bring up the topic of how do you know when to quit? How do you know when you should stop pursuing a career in investment banking? And this is a hard one for me. This is a hard one to talk about. It's difficult because I have friends who have struggled with this. I've seen it up close and personal. I've seen it where people get really close to getting their offer and then they don't get it. They wonder what they did wrong. They wonder what other people did wrong. They start finger pointing and blaming the banks for not giving them an offer, but giving it to someone else who's less qualified. And you just start to get all these emotions around it. And I just want to talk about it for a minute because it's really important, right? It's really part of a broader question in life, I think. When you want something, when you want to achieve something or go do something and you don't get it, how do you know when to keep going and not give up and when to pivot? And it's really delicate thing. It's quite personal, but let me talk through it with you. Those of you who may be in this position, especially some of the MBA candidates, this is kind of we're nearing the end of the recruiting season for the year. Some things do happen early in the year, but the majority of the recruiting season for most MBA programs for investment banking is done by end of December. And so if you find yourself in a position where you don't have an offer right now, let's do a little bit of analysis, okay? So think about how many processes you were in and think about how many you got cut from, how quickly you got cut. If you got cut super quickly, then it may be a sign that you just simply weren't prepared with the basics, right? Maybe your pitch wasn't sharp enough. Maybe your basic technicals were just not there. And maybe that's the reason. If you got cut later in the process, now this is where you can do a little bit of analysis and we can just look at the data. So if you got cut later in the process, let's say that you were tracking pretty well, maybe even had 1, 2, 3, 4, I've even seen 5 super days without an offer. What's going on there? So there's different phases of the process. There's getting through the coffee chats, right? Your basic application, getting through your coffee chats with bankers. Then usually there's a first round formal interview. And then there's typically a super day after that. And then after the super day, you know whether or not you got the job. So if you're making it all the way to super days and then just not closing the deal, consider a couple of things. Number one is simply just a likability issue. Sometimes, and this is not necessarily fair. I'm just trying to paint a picture of my observations as objectively as I've seen it. But I have personally failed, like back in my engineering career, I have personally failed to close the deal on a number of interviews when I felt like my credentials were top notch. That it can be very damaging to the ego when you're like, oh, like I'm Alex Mason. I graduated with an engineering degree from MIT, and I'm not getting this job, this dream engineering job for me at the time. Like, what is wrong? And it can be very humbling. But the reality is, it's not necessarily your qualifications, your pedigree, how well you did the technical part of the interview. If the person on the other side of the table doesn't like you, if you can't convince them that you're going to be a great person to work with, if you don't find a way to connect with them at a human level, it's going to be difficult to get that job offer. So that's the word of advice that I would give, and something that I've suffered from personally myself years and years ago when I was just going through interviews, just having no clue what I was doing, is sharpen your technical skills, right? That's one of the reasons you listen to or watch this show, right? To improve your investment banking techs. But also, you've got to be likable, and it's got to be feasible for the other person to believe that you can do it. And not just that you can do it, but that you can do the job better than the other people that you're competing with. And make no mistake, this is a competition. There are a certain number of slots at certain banks. If they like someone better than you, they're going to choose that person. And unless that person either turns down the offer or the firm decides to open up more spots in that group, you're not getting that slot. So you want to be at the top of that slot so that you have the option to accept that offer. Now, kind of circling back to when to quit, right? It's this system of analysis of looking back. Who did you talk to? What are the objective pieces of data that you're getting? Sometimes it's really hard to get personalized feedback from the banks because they just want to move on. They don't want to have to explain to every candidate they didn't give an offer to why they didn't give them an offer. But sometimes you can. So if you can get direct feedback, get it, because that can be helpful. If you can't, try to get some other data, like practice with friends, practice with any investment banker who's been successful to give you feedback. Like, is it your presentation? Is it the way you're structuring your answers? Are you just not coming across as personable enough? Like, it could be that. And those are some things you can work on. So if you see things that you can be in control of, that you're not doing as great of a job at, it's critical to eliminate the blind spots and become aware of those things as quickly as possible so you can course correct. And I've seen this happen as well. I've seen candidates who were maybe not tracking well, but they became aware of the things that were holding them back. Fortunately, the things that were holding them back were fixable. They were things that they were in control of, improving their skills. They put in the work to improve those skills, and then guess what? They received results and they got offers. So I've seen that happen as well, and that's an awesome story whenever you get to witness that. So you can be that person too. There is the issue of timing, and this is also critical too. So I know the process is different. If you're pursuing an analyst position, it's a completely different timetable, and I think it usually goes like relatively quickly, but you do have to apply like super far in advance. But the actual interview process is maybe a little bit quicker than the MBA process. But I can speak to the MBA process since I've been through it myself, and just wrapped up helping dozens and dozens of Cornell students do the same. It's long and drawn out, and there's a lot of steps. But if you find yourself at the end of the main recruiting season, like right now, there is still hope for you. There is still hope for you if you want to become an investment banker. Look at the banks that are not recruiting directly at your school that might be open-minded to taking someone from your school. And sometimes it's a cold outreach via email that can work. Now, spamming everyone under the sun probably won't work, but if you can make your emails, and I've talked about this on the show before, if you can make those emails as personalized as possible and making sure you're checking for your grammar, spelling mistakes, etc., that can go a long way. If you can find commonalities between yourself and full-time bankers, maybe you went to the same undergraduate university or same high school, or you're from the same area of the country, you find some other point of connection, just enough to get that initial conversation going, that can make a difference. So now is the time to be more creative if you have struck out so far. So reach out to some of these maybe smaller investment banks. Maybe they'll take one intern in their whole firm, because maybe they don't even take interns normally, but maybe you can demonstrate a really great fit with their specific niche. They have a specialty that you're really strong in, and maybe you can provide value in some way. Just find a way to be creative, because the standard sort of more mechanical school recruiting processes that a lot of people use to get into investment banking, if you struck out of that, you have to start opening up your how you direct your energy, so to speak. So that's what I would say there. Now, if you get, and this is again for the MBA process, if you get to the end of January, so I'm recording this in middle of December 2024, let's say you struck out, you're still trying to find something. If you get to the end of January and you still haven't secured something, I would seriously consider pivoting to another type of role. Maybe you want to do corporate finance. There's a lot of amazing corporate finance opportunities that are out there. There's other types of transactional work out there, like M&A advisory, corporate development, business development. There's so many things that are related to investment banking that isn't investment banking specific work, but can be in the same sort of wheelhouse that you may find interesting, that's also a good fit for your skills. It is not the end of the world if you don't get your dream job. I can tell you this myself, because I personally got rejected from what I thought was my dream job back in my engineering days, and I felt crushed, right? Like I felt like, why can't I get this job? Like I should be the person doing this. But then I realized, maybe this is simply redirection. Maybe I'm meant to do something else. And lo and behold, now I'm about to be a Cornell MBA graduate in a few months, investment banker, right? And it's incredible. And so sometimes you do need to pivot, but only you can look inside your heart and know when that time is. I'm just giving you some guidelines based on things I've observed and things I've experienced myself. So I hope that helps. Timing is important. If you still feel like you have a real shot, fight that fight. Go for it, 100%. Don't give up. If you feel in your heart that, hey, maybe you've exhausted all options right now, but maybe there's another season where you can try again, that's okay. Rest, recuperate, refocus your energy, figure out what you can do better next time, go after it again next time. And that just depends on where you're at in the cycle. But that's what I would have in terms of advice. But knowing when to quit, such a hard thing to do. Such a hard thing to do, especially if you're listening to this and you're a type A person, if you're an ambitious person, right? Giving up is just not in your vocabulary. But sometimes pivoting needs to be in your vocabulary, because you can use a lot of energy. I've seen people spend a lot of energy spending months trying to get an opportunity, trying to force something that just was not a great fit for them at that particular moment in time, based on the opportunity set of firms and jobs available, and based on their specific, the way they were presenting themselves as a candidate at that moment in time. They're trying to force it. And they could have been so much happier if they had just pivoted sooner. So think about that too. But again, I'm not here to tell you what to do or not do. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of perspective, a little dose of perspective, hopefully a dose of wisdom to know when that moment is for you. But yeah, that's what I got. Only you and your heart will know. But I wish you best of luck, and I will continue to be here for you on this channel, on this show, helping you pursue your dreams. So that's that's all I got for tonight. Have a good one. And I'll see you next time on Investment Banking Insights.